Welcome back to the Sport Sesh Podcast. I'm your host, Mason Shatwell, and again, as always, our co-host is James Evans. And today it's a bit different. This episode, it's the Big 50. We've been talking about it for a while now, and also over the weekend, it's been 1 year since we started the show. We've had many shows, but yeah, this is the 50th, and well, I guess 1 year anniversary. So James, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing very well, thank you. I mean, it just feels weird, doesn't it, listening to that, because what was it, over a year ago, we were sort of pondering as to what we should sort of do over COVID. I mean, it was sort of coming into fruition. We were like, what should we do to pass the time? And then, here we are, and a year later to get, secure about 50 episodes or so. It's ridiculous to hear, and hopefully, onto the 100 mark, and, we might even hit the 100 subscribers mark this year. That's probably our next goal, but to reach 50 episodes today, I mean, it's a fantastic milestone, as you alluded to earlier. It's almost a year. Well, it's just gone past a year to the day since we first started our first ever one. So I can't complain. I mean, after hearing that, I'm in joyful spirits, but I'm all good, mate. How about yourself?
Yeah, I can't complain. As I was mentioning offshore, I don't think I mentioned it on the show before. I was supposed to be having my debut fight come July 2nd, and it looks like now, well, it has been postponed, that, and it looks like it could be August time, but yeah, I should be stepping in there before the end of August, hopefully. So fingers crossed on that one. Before we go on about all the sports we got today, I'm going to ask James, out of all 50 episodes, which one has been your favourite?
Oh, you really put me on the spot there. I mean, I'm not going to be cliche and go, every episode's my favourite. I don't know. It's a tough one, really. Every time we've got Alex Patel on, I've thoroughly enjoyed it, because you can tell he's proper down to earth, and he's a genuine sports fanatic. He cares about not just football but MMA. I've seen him cover tennis. He's a true sports fanatic, so I've got nothing but respect for Alex. Chisanga Malata was up there as well. Joe Selecki, again, with most fighters, I think we've said this several times, with most fighters, they're busy grinding, putting in the graft throughout 24 hours, basically every single day, 7 days a week. But for Joe Selecki to sort of go out of his way to give us like 45 minutes or so, and he was genuinely serious with his answers. He was very responsive.
I think he pulled up on the side of the road for it as well.
Very good. Yeah, exactly. And you look at other fighters we've spoken to, I won't name any names, who have sort of drifted off on the side of the road. There, you were kind of given like one answered questions, one-worded answers. So with Joe Selecki, he was up there, and I mean, you can tell, he's a genuine down-to-earth bloke. Another one, John Morgan. I mean, if you're a combat sports fan, you'll know who John Morgan is. And it was very tough to get him on, because I spoke to him when he was in Abu Dhabi and Fight Island when they first went there with the UFC. And he was like, yeah, sure, we'll do it from my hotel. And it took, just over a month, nearly 2 months until we finally got him on. And when we got him on, it was thoroughly worth, ours and the fans as well, because we genuinely got a good episode out of that. So those are the couple of names I can mention at the top of my head. But what about you, mate?
To be honest, I think
Guy Mowbray's up there as well, actually.
Yeah, 100%. Obviously, I think there's only been one or two, and I wouldn't even say they were below par. They was just not what I was expecting. But I think my top three, I wouldn't put them in order, was John Morgan, just because amazing guy. It was great to hear from someone that's been around in the MMA world in terms of journalism for God knows how many years now. Yeah. Vic Altamirano, the LFA flyweight title holder, and then Joe Selecki. They're my top three. And as you mentioned earlier, Alex Patel, when we get him on, it's always good, because obviously he's down to earth. He's a journalist, just like what we want to do, and it's always good to talk about sports and get some insight from Alex, and Guy Mowbray as well. And to be fair, one that I didn't think was going to be that good, but that was pretty good, that I enjoyed, was Josh Kay from Barrow AFC back in the early days of the show.
Yeah. Again, it's sort of nice to get a sort of professional footballer sort of aspect. And I mean, I think I could be wrong in saying this, but I believe he's looking for a new club now. So I wish Josh all the best. I've been that traditional sort of YouTuber scout. I don't watch Barrow, but I'll go on YouTube and search some of his highlights. He's a decent little player, and I think hopefully he'll find a club soon. But when we recorded with him, I think that was our second guest ever. Mm-hmm. It was thoroughly an enjoyable experience just to sort of hear his side and how he got to the top and all that. And again, Adam Catterall, our third guest, was up there as well. So we've had so many guests. We've been blessed over the last year or so to get such a high level of athletes, journalists, and all that jazz. So hopefully we can get some more on by the end of the year and in the upcoming weeks, and hopefully we can provide more content out there for the fans.
Yeah, 100%. Obviously, we've not had a guest on with both of us hosting the show for a while, so hopefully we can get that happening. But let's get to what the show's about, sports. So I'm going to start off with football. Euro 2020 kicked off last Friday. Turkey and Italy. Decent game, to be fair. I think it finished 3-0 to Italy, but there's been some decent games over the past few days or so. But I'm going to touch on one subject quick because it's not one that we're going to want to talk about too much. But obviously, I'm sure everyone heard about the Danish player Christian Eriksen that suffered the cardiac arrest on the pitch against Finland. Obviously, they was able to get him back. He's now in hospital. Apparently, he's in good spirits. He just wants to know what happened. So myself and James wish Christian all the best, and hopefully he can get back to a full recovery. But then, obviously, we've had some good games as well. I'm gonna jump straight into the England game, just because that was probably the below par game of them all. But we got the job done. Football's coming on games.
I thought it was a very good performance. I mean, all right, you look at the 1-0 scoreline, it sort of doesn't. You look at the other nations, you look at the Spanish, the French, and all their fans are thinking, that we're going to be high-scoring games. But with England, like I said, with the French and Germany, you expect high-scoring games. But with England, I mean, it's been tough. And I think ultimately our goal going into the game was we could not afford to lose. And to come away with all 3 points was nothing but a blessing, really. And I thought right from the minute one, I thought we were so good. I think considering the circumstances we were playing in, it was like 30 degrees, the hottest day of the year, and most of these players aren't used to playing those type of conditions. Well, the England players anyway. Croatia, sure, they're used to playing every week, but I think right from the get-go, you could see our intent was to sort of get the ball, up the pitch and as quickly as possible. Because as soon as we got the ball in behind, we sort of caused havoc for their defence, and particularly in the first half. I thought Raheem Sterling did absolute wonders in the first half. Died down a bit in the second, but obviously ultimately ended up scoring the winner, his first major international tournament goal. And I can't really complain. It was such a phenomenal performance from start to finish. I'll pick out 2 players who impressed me at the top of my head. Calvin Phillips, sensational midfield. I think I put a tweet out during the game. I was like, at the start of the game, I was very skeptical of Gareth Southgate selecting Calvin Phillips in the starting 11. I ate my words. Boy, did he prove me wrong. What a sensational performance up and down that pitch for 90 minutes. And honestly, the sheer dedication and commitment that Calvin Phillips put in throughout the whole game was just sensational. And the second player, Tyrone Mings. I mean, Tyrone Mings, I know Croatia didn't really pose that much of a threat, but when they did go forward and when they did get into our final third, I thought Tyrone Mings was spot on. He was solid. He did what he had to do. He did his job well. And to fill in, because going into the tournament, it was always going to be about Stones and Maguire. They'll be the key partnership going forward for England. And we're not really blessed with centre-backs. But for Tyrone Mings to sort of start his first international major tournament of his career against Croatia at home, at Wembley, in the Euros, there's a lot of pressure on you. I thought he stepped up when he can play, and he was very solid. And those are the 2 players that stuck out. And going forward, it's the perfect start. 1-0, 3 points. That sort of bodes well going into the games against Scotland and Czech Republic. And with Scotland, a 2-0 loss at the start of their game, their Euro campaign against Czech Republic. It sort of benefits us, but then it kind of doesn't, because the Scots are probably going to be more up for it now, because they can't. If they lose again, they're out pretty much. We can knock the Scots out on Friday night, and I'm all for it, and I'm loving every single bit of it. I think Scotland were very unlucky. I think most of their play obviously came down that left-hand side. I thought Steve Clark made a bit of a slight error in judgment with regards to the starting lineup. I think he should have played Che Adams right from the get-go, because I don't know if you watched the game, but as soon as Che Adams came on at half-time, he was a real key player for Scotland. He was a difference maker, and he got them playing again. And Andy Robertson had a striker to sort of target with the likes of Che Adams and Lyndon Dykes. And on any other day, they could have scored. They were very unlucky, and the second goal was a wonder strike from Patrick Schick, who's probably secured goal of the tournament in the first round already. But I think you've got to be asking questions of Jack Hendry, I think it is, who took the shot from like 30 yards out, which was unnecessary, and the ball unfortunately deflected the path of the Czechs, and they ultimately scored a wonder goal. But it's the worst possible start for Scotland, and they have to go out there at Wembley to get all 3 points. And 20,000 fans packed out at the Wembley Stadium to watch England versus Scotland. There's no bigger game for us on the group stage. We've got to go out there and beat the Scots. So with that added home fans and that support, I can only see us to getting the job done. I think it will be tough until we get the first goal. As soon as we get the first goal, the floodgates will open, and then I think we'll win that game, and then the Czech Republic game as well on the final day. I think that'll be a tougher test for us. I think Czech Republic on the dev can cause a lot of teams a lot of problems. I think you saw that against Scotland, whereby they looked a bit dodgy at times, but I think going forward, they've got that attacking threat. I think if they lose to Croatia, then I think it would be a lot more easier for us because, again, ultimately, we got the tougher test out of the way first in Croatia. And I'll be keeping a close eye on Croatia versus Czech Republic because it sort of sets up nicely going into the final group stage. So for an England fan, you can't really complain. I mean, as you said earlier, it's coming home. And even after one game, a 1-0, scrappy 1-0 win against Croatia with Raheem Sterling scoring the winner, it's coming home. You can't complain. And you look at the other big teams, there hasn't really been many standout performances when you look at it. Spain 0-0 against Sweden, France 1-0 against Germany. I know they scored 2 disallowed goals and they scored, and their goal was an own goal. But Mbappe's disallowed goal, oh my God, that was sensational. But Hungary against Portugal, Hungary held on for about 85 minutes or so. Portugal, I thought they were very poor in the attacking third. They blew so many chances. So look at Portugal, France, they haven't performed well. Spain haven't performed well. Italy, there will be tougher tests for them because, as you said, 3-0 on the opening day against Turkey. What a result! But you look at the Turks; they were poor. They were absolutely woeful. They were tired after 20 minutes, and they literally ran out of answers in the first half. So there will be tougher tests for Italy in Wales and Switzerland. So. And the other big nations, Holland, they nearly blew it against Ukraine. If the keeper didn't make a mistake for the third goal, I think it would have been a 2-2 draw. So, out of the big teams, out of the top nations, no one's really impressed. I know Belgium, they won 3-0 against Russia, I believe, and they were impressive. But again, Russia had their moments as well. And on any other day, Russia have got a better squad because it's literally filled with 37 and 36-year-olds. If you've got the younger, better players coming through, they would have given Belgium a tougher test. So no one's really impressed yet. And I think, obviously, maybe I'm being a bit biased and hypocritical because I'm an England fan and I'm enjoying the other teams failing. But we're one game in. I can't really, sort of decide just yet as to who the favourites will be. But I'm pretty convinced from what I've seen over the last, couple of days or so. So you can't really complain as an England fan.
Yeah, 100%. I think the game with England, I thought, reason why I say it was below par was just because I believe we could have had so many more goals just because of the chances. Obviously, Phil Foden in the first couple of minutes off the post, Harry Kane in the second half, I believe, or it might have been the first half. But even, to be fair, I'll take a 1-0 win. And as you alluded to earlier, we could knock out the Scots on Friday. And I tell you what, like you, I am 100% for that, knocking the Scots out, and I will enjoy every minute of that. Even if we don't knock them out, and they've still got a chance. If we get that win against the Scots, that'll just be that'll be a big blow for them because obviously first major tournament in 23 years, they want to win as much as they can. They want to beat one of the biggest rivals, England, and sorry, Scots, I just don't see it happening. But one game that I watched over the past few days that I thought was okay with the Portugal-Hungary, to be fair. And I felt for Hungary because they had a couple of chances where they could have got the goals, but it just seemed Portugal were the attacking team in that they stuffed a lot of chances, could have probably won 6-7-0, but they got the job done ultimately. Obviously, Ronaldo ended up getting 2 goals and can't fault them. They got the wins, and like you said earlier, I'm going to be keeping a close eye as well on the Croatia-Czech Republic game, because if Czech Republic win, it's going to be interesting for us in our last group stage game against them and see how that goes. But it's also going to be interesting for Scotland-Croatia to see, because whoever wins out of that goes third, but I don't think they'd get into the last 16 with the performances in the group stages. But yeah, the Euro so far, it's failed to disappoint in terms of the goals we've seen, but the big teams haven't been showing up. A lot of them have been winning, but it's not been all set sailing for them. But yeah, I'm going to switch over to the UFC now. Well, actually, no, I'll go over to boxing before UFC because it's only a little segment. Obviously, we seen yesterday was the Tyson Fury Deontay Wilder free press conference, and I can't begin to describe how disappointed I am that this is the fight we're getting. Instead of Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua, I am so gutted that we're not seeing that. I don't think we'll see it this year either, even if Tyson Fury beats Wilder and AJ beats Usyk. But the face-off was interesting yesterday because obviously it was over 5 minutes long, the longest face-off I think we've seen. And
yeah,
it ended up Deontay Wilder walking away. But what was more interesting, I think it was Tyson Fury's brother or one of his teammates was in the section while all the teams were on the stage, and they're giving it the big into one of Deontay Wilder's team, and I just thought it's Fury and Wilder, not bloody Fury 2 and Wilder 2. But how do you see the Fury Wilder fight going? Because I see it Fury again.
Yeah, obviously, when it comes to the British heavyweights, I'm Fury over AJ any day of the week, and I know a lot of these boxing fans or so-called boxing fans, they've probably gone from AJ to Fury now, but I've been Fury through and through for a long time now. I just prefer him. I think he's a better boxer, but I think he'll win the third fight. And what encouraged me a little bit is when you're listening to Sugar Hill, his coach, and his promoters, they're confident he can get the job done in even better style than the first two fights. Because, in my opinion, Tyson Fury's 2-0 against Deontay Wilder. How he was robbed of the first fight was beyond me, but he's got to go out there, get the job done, and then we'll probably see if the fight with AJ will happen, because it's just sort of there's so many boxing politics going on behind the scenes, and it's frustrating to see, because at the end of the day, if you've got two heavyweights, want to sort of battle it out to become the greatest boxing heavyweight on the planet, probably one of the best boxer on the planet, you have all the accolades to sort of claim those bragging rights, being the greatest boxer in the planet right now. But for that to not happen is beyond me, because there seemed to have been a lot of politics going on behind the scenes, and it was very frustrating to see, because, like I said, at the end of the day, if you want to fight, you will fight. You'll do whatever it takes to get the contract bout signed. And I don't know what happened behind the scenes, but ultimately now we're not going to see that fight. It's Deontay Wilder versus Fury in July, and then AJ versus Usyk in December, which has sort of been mentioned, but I'm very disappointed in that fight not being made. And with regards to Fury versus Wilder 3, as I said, I think Fury will win, but I really would not be surprised if Wilder just comes out there and sparks and clean out, because in a way, as much as I love Fury, it's kind of calm in a way, if you know what I mean. You should have fought AJ, that fight should have happened, and then you're going to lose it all now after the potential defeat to Wilder, because if he loses to Deontay Wilder, I can guarantee you that fight with AJ, you can forget about it, because it's not happening. So I think now he's got to focus on the task at hand by beating Deontay Wilder. Same with Anthony Joshua with Alexander Usyk. If they both come past those tough tests, then maybe we'll see it in, I don't know, late 2021, maybe early 2022. But that fight should have happened. I'm very disappointed that we're not going to be seeing a summer heavyweight showdown between Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury.
100%. I think that would have made the summer even better with football coming home. AJ Fury, the British summer for 2021 would have been unmatched. But yeah, I'm going to go over to the UFC now. There's 4 fights from this weekend's card that I wanted to touch on. I'll go with the first one, Paul Craig and Jamal Hill. Obviously, watching the UFC Embedded series on YouTube throughout the week, it seemed, I didn't think there was any bad blood there, but then at the beginning of the Embedded series, it seems like Jamal Hill was fired up, and then I don't know where it came from, but the fight, Paul Craig, what an animal he is. He was coming out to win, and if he didn't win by the TKO, he was going to make him tap anyway if his arm didn't dislocate. So Paul Craig, what an animal. I think Jamal Hill, he's got a lot to learn in terms of what to work on, because he got hooked down. It was quite easy for Craig to get him to the floor. So I think that's something he needs to work on once he's healed up. But one thing that I did enjoy to see is obviously they had all the bad blood, but then 2 hours later after the fight, they was having a dance and a beer with each other. And I think that's what the sport of MMA is about, the respect after. And Jamal Hill came out and said he was getting criticism for having a beer and a dance with him just because of the bad blood and how the fight ended. But the guys have just gone out and fought. Yeah, it may have been quick. It didn't end the way that the fans wanted to see. And I'm sure it's not the way Paul Craig wanted it to happen by dislocating his arm. I'm sure he would have rather him come out uninjured. But what's the problem with them going out having a fun time after and them having respect for each other? But yeah, Paul Craig, what an animal.
It's good. It's good sportsmanship. You know, they left it all inside the octagon, and I thought just leading up to the fight, it was probably their way of trying to get more attention onto the lesser fights, if you will, in the main. Going into it, all the attention was going to be on Adesanya and Figueiredo's fight. So they're probably, most of the fans probably overlooking Paul Craig versus Jamal Hill. And I think going into the fight, obviously Jamal Hill was a real knockout artist, and as you said there's something to work on now. You know, he got taken to the ground very quickly, and the fight ended very quickly for my liking. I thought there are definitely aspects of Hill's game which he can improve, and it was on display for the world to see this weekend. So I think you can take nothing away from Paul Craig. You know, his great heart and determination to go out there and get the job done, got him through that fight, and I've got nothing but respect for him. And that's only going to do wonders for his career, because there's probably more attention, you know, beaming on Paul Craig now. He's defeated going into that fight. He defeated an undefeated fighter in Jamal Hill, and that's only, like I said, that's only going to do wonders for his career. And maybe now we'll see him fight potentially a top 10 guy like heavyweight, and that's all. That's credit to Paul Craig. That's what he deserves. So I'm looking forward to seeing him stepping back in there anytime soon. Maybe towards the end of the year. That would be nice, but we'll have to wait and see. But what performance from Craig!
100%. Next fight, Leon Edwards, Nate Diaz. Wow, I couldn't tell you. I think my heart was in my mouth. I think I was more excited for this than I was for Adesanya Vettori and Figueiredo's fight, just because obviously we've not seen Leon properly for more or less 2 years now. The Bilal Muhammad one ended.
Didn't really count, does it?
Yeah, it doesn't count. But obviously, whenever Nate Diaz is fighting as well, you're gonna tune in. No matter, he could be fighting some homeless guy off the street, and you're gonna tune in. So it doesn't matter who Nate Diaz fights. You're gonna be turning that TV on to watch him. But 24 minutes of Leon Edwards masterclass. What a win for him. But that final minute, I was like you said, my heart was in my mouth when it was the Stockton slap and then the hand to follow up with it. And I thought, no, he's not. An extra minute, and I think Nate Diaz would have had that fight.
100%. I think throughout the whole 25 minutes, Leon was very clever not to sort of get emotionally invested in Nate Diaz's antics, because you saw him like sort of panting and faking and sort of trying these like weird flicks and tricks just to sort of appease the appetite of the fans. And Leon Edwards wasn't having any of it. He didn't get dragged into all of that malarkey, and fair play. He was very professional throughout the 24 minutes. And I think the narrative for most of the MMA fans was that we saw a dominant 24 minutes by Leon Edwards. But now, when you look at Nate Diaz's fan base, you look at the MMA community, now the narrative will be, oh, if Nate Diaz had another minute, he would have knocked him out. And that's a shame, because that completely overshadows a fantastic performance from Leon Edwards. That was a striking masterclass from Edwards from start to finish. I was thoroughly, and even took Nate Diaz to the ground a couple of times. It just showed how versatile he truly is. And it's a shame, I think, when you look at the UFC going forward in the welterweight division, you've got your pros and your cons. You look at how the matchmakers are going to sort of see it going forward. You've got the fight that will sell, and you've got the fight that is sort of deserved. The fighter that deserves the title shot is Leon Edwards. The fight that will sell is Kobe Covington. Guess what one the UFC will pick?
Yeah, it's
they're going to pick Kobe Covington.
Yeah, it's disappointing in that way, but obviously I think Leon Edwards will probably wait for the title shot now because, like you said, he deserves it. And my point to the people that say, what if Nate Diaz had another minute is, why didn't he do it in the other 24? Obviously, as we know, Nate Diaz does tend to come on in the later rounds, but if it was that case, he knows it's a 25-minute fight. Why didn't he do it as soon as the 5th round? Because if that happened at the start of the 5th round, I guarantee Nate Diaz would have had that fight. Nate Diaz would have won that via a TKO finish or something, and it's disappointing to see with fans like that, but you just got to see there was 24 other minutes he could have done it in the fight, so they've got no excuse really. But another fight I did want to talk on, and I was so happy for him, Brandon Moreno defeating Davison Figueiredo for the flyweight title. I'll tell you what, going into the fight, I did have Figueiredo winning this. I didn't believe Moreno was going to get the job done, and to be honest, I couldn't be happier for the guy. He got cut from he was the lowest seed on his season of The Ultimate Fighter, gets cut from the UFC, comes back and wins the title. It's the ultimate comeback story, and what a way to do it. Davison Figueiredo did not look himself whatsoever in that fight, and to be honest, if I was going to say what's next for Figueiredo, it should be a move up to 135 because that he can't keep doing the weight cut because he missed weight last year. He almost missed weight. He had, I think, 30 seconds left to weigh in, and he managed to weigh in. So, yeah, 135 should be the next move for Figueiredo. But Brandon Moreno, he deserves this. And to be honest, I see a rematch for him and Askarov for the title next.
Yeah, if the UFC don't want to do a trilogy fight, then that's probably... There's not really many standout candidates, isn't there? I mean, there was talk of Cody Garbrandt when he was on top, dropping down to 125, facing Davison Figueiredo. Whether that will happen between now Moreno and Garbrandt, I can't see it happening. But there aren't that many options going forward for Moreno. But he's the first Mexican-born, the true Mexican-born UFC champion. I've got nothing but respect for Brandon Moreno, as you alluded to earlier. He was the lowest seed in the Ultimate Fighter. He got kicked out from the UFC, and what a story. To come back the way he did, and to become a champion, to work his way out the rankings. And I know ultimately, you look at the first fight, if that low blow points deduction, didn't go. It went Brandon Moreno's way because obviously, ultimately, Davison Figueiredo got the points deduction. Had that not been the case, Davison Figueiredo would have won. But you take nothing away from Brandon Moreno's performance in the second fight. I mean, from start to finish, he was. You can tell he had that more passion and determination, and that that mindset to be a champion, to become a champion, to finish the fight. And you saw him in the first round. I think he dropped him or flicked him with the jab, and that was a sort of. That paid dividends for him throughout the first, couple of rounds. Those dangerous left jabs, and that managed to sort of scare Davison Figueiredo a wee bit. And going forwards, we already knew Brandon Moreno was well accomplished on the mat. As soon as the fight went to the floor, you could tell who the true dominant force was on the canvas. Brandon Moreno held his own, and to get the submission, you could tell Davison Figueiredo had no answers as soon as he got him in that choker. He essentially gave up as soon as both arms were in. And it was just so refreshing to see because you could see how much it meant to Brandon Moreno after the fight. Because it took it about a minute or so just to sort of, before it to finally sink in. And he sort of collapsed to the floor with tears of joy. And I love seeing those moments because you see the backstory and their personal background before the fight, and to see how much he's had to sacrifice and to see how hard he's worked for to become a champion. It's a fantastic view, and I love to see it. So with regards to what's next for Moreno, it's tough. I don't think he'll care. I think he'll sort of care about spending time with his family, for a month or so, and then get back into the gym and then figure out what's next. I think now is the sort of time whereby he's going to sort of relax a little bit and take some time away, but to truly sink in. I've seen images of him back in his home country already, I believe, at the top of my head. So I think he's going to enjoy that as long as it lasts, and then he'll go from there as soon as that dies down a bit.
100%. Last fight from this weekend's card, obviously the main event, Israel Adesanya, Marvin Vettori, the rematch, and it went how I expected it to go. To be honest, I expected Izzy to just use his striking in that fight, and to be fair, Marvin got a couple of takedowns. I think one judge scored it 50-45 to Izzy. I don't believe that. I think Marvin probably had one of the rounds, maybe even two. But I I can't. I'd have to rewatch it, but I know I scored in my round, but I think there was one that was close. I can't remember which.
Yeah, it might have been the second or the third. Because I think the third one he started to come out of his shell a bit and then started performing. But no, I think Adesanya cruised. I struggled to give Marvin a round. Maybe the third. I think at the top of my head. But like you said, I'll have to watch it again. But again, it's just a real dominant performance from Adesanya.
Yeah, 100%. And to be honest, Israel made me laugh at the end. Obviously, Marvin doing the middle. And I seen a meme online, and it was the picture of Marvin walking away, but where Israel were on the floor, like and obviously he was joking.
Yeah.
But imagine your TV crashes and you turn on that point.
Yeah, I saw that.
Oh no!
But,
yeah,
no.
Robert Whittaker's next for Israel. It's got to be.
100%. They've got to run that one back. Maybe do that in either Australia or New Zealand. That was a fun fight, and I think Robert Whittaker. You've seen him in his fights with Gastelum and then Jack Cannonier. We've seen, particularly with the fight between this sort of new rejuvenated Robert Whittaker, and I'm thoroughly off. I think with the second, obviously, it's going to happen. It will probably last a little longer than the second. No, I think ultimately going forward, that's got to happen. I think with Robert Whittaker, he's a dangerous opponent for Adesanya. I think emotionally, you could tell mentally and emotionally, Robert Whittaker wasn't there for the first fight. I think with the second fight, he won't make as many mistakes because Adesanya completely controlled the fight. But no, that's definitely the fight to make, and I'm thoroughly looking forward to it. Come September, October, probably October, November time, I think it'll happen.
100%. And the last point I was going to have for the show today was obviously this weekend's UFC, the main event, the Korean Zombie versus 50k Danny Ige. I don't know about this one. I think Korean Zombie's probably done just because I think his age is going to catch up to him, and I don't think he's going to be able to compete with these guys. You've seen how he performed against Brian Ortega. I don't think he'd be able to challenge the guys like Max Alex Volkanovski. I don't think he's going to be that it's going to be tough, but I don't think it's going to be too tough for Danny Ige. I see Danny Ige possibly even getting a knockout, to be honest.
It's a tough fight. It really is a tough fight. You saw the Korean Zombie against Brian Ortega in his last fight. He just looked completely out of it. But take nothing away from Brian Ortega because that was a sensational performance from start to finish. And yeah, it kind of showed at 34 years of age, maybe the Korean Zombie can't compete with these top guys. I don't think he's finished. I think he will get the job done against Danny Ige, but I think it'll be via decision. I think it'll be close. It'll be really close. But we've seen Danny Ige, what he's capable of on his day. And I don't know. It really is a tough one to call, but I'm literally scraping and I'm picking the Korean Zombie by the skin of my teeth. But it'll be a very good fight nonetheless.
Well, that's everything I had for today's show. But I know in the coming weeks we've got plenty of cards. We'll probably do a double preview for July 17th and July 24th, which I believe is Max and Yair and then TJ and Corey Sandhagen. And then obviously we'll do our preview and probably a post-fight show for UFC 264. And then, like we said at the beginning of the show, hopefully we're going to be able to get some more guests on the show and get some more episodes out. But that's everything I had. Do you have anything more to add, James?
No, that's all from me. We've got half an hour of good content out there and I'm happy, mate.
Perfect. Well, everyone will be back probably next week, so make sure you tune in. Take care, everyone.